if I could send it over to Chris for the Freedom of Information Act.
All right, in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of meetings and agendas were posted and furnished to all news media and persons requesting notification.
Cool, thank you very much. How about a motion for approval of the meeting notes from April 9th?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, the motion carries.
No general public comments.
None? Okay, thank you. How about a program update, Chris?
All right, so I will start. I just want to briefly introduce the newest member of the Greenbelt team, Shelby Marin-Cashew at the end there. She's joining us as a Greenbelt specialist, and she'll be focusing on our monitoring efforts and ensuring compliance in all the properties. She has a bachelor's degree in sustainability studies with a concentration in natural resource management, and has a professional background as a horticulturalist, GIS analyst, and restoration specialist. So welcome, Shelby.
Fantastic. Great to have you on board. Good timing. All right. Next item.
All right.
Botany Bay expansion.
Yep, sorry.
More program updates.
Sorry, we're still on the program update here. So County Council action and GAB recommendations since the last time we all met. All 5 of the FY25 winter cycle projects were approved without conditions. I'm going to go briefly over some program statistics here. The total projects approved now is at 234. The graphic you see off to the right, these are pulled directly from our public dashboard, which is accessible by the public on our website. Our total acres protected is at 26,170. The breakdown is below there. Total funds awarded, $169.7 million. Average cost per acre, $6,001, and the breakdown between conservation easements and fee simple just below that. Our match provided is at $235.7 million with an average of 139%. And here's some public access data as well, which can be found on that public dashboard. Our current funding for the rural allocation, we're just above $16 million and about $7.2 million for urban with a total of $23.2 million. Here's a breakdown of the municipalities where they currently stand for their balances. As you can see, the urban unincorporated at the bottom is still in the negative pretty significantly at $5.3 million, and Folly Beach as well is in the negative to the top there, and the rest are all back up in the positive. And then here's the lifetime projections. Again, if you're looking at that urban unincorporated allocation, just over $1 million left in the lifetime. And the others are listed there as well. So we've had a total of 12 projects closed in the last 6 months from the last GAB meeting. So it's been busy. As you recall, we had that 18 project cycle last summer. So a lot of those have come through and closed. And this is what we're currently looking at as far as any closings pending. You can see the majority of those are the 11 segments of Mount Pleasant Way, and we have started to see some movement on those with some initial appraisals coming through. And I'll pass it over to Eric for an update on the goals.
Thanks, Chris. I've been a little more directly involved in goals in our next item after this, so I'll give you the quick update here. As you know, you all directed us to form a technical advisory committee and start looking at some ways we could potentially some options for you all to recommend changes to the goals to the Greenbelt program, which were originally set back in 2006 with the publication of the original plan. So we've been doing a lot behind the scenes. We haven't had another formal technical advisory committee meeting, but what we've done is collected all of the data. Greenbelt staff then went through all that data and looked for duplications and missing public park sites. For one thing, because we're doing a level of park service analysis as well as part of this. So we just finished that a few weeks ago. Everything's in the hands of the GIS experts. And then in parallel with that, the county, you'll recall, got a grant to do a green infrastructure plan from the same organization that did the whole statewide green infrastructure plan, which is pretty much exactly what we wanted to do as part of the goals effort, was look at the highest, the best habitat cores, the most sustainable cores, where are our big spots that we want to protect, and how do we connect in between those. So that is exactly what the Green Infrastructure Plan is doing, and we just had our third of 4 planned meetings to see some of their progress, and I've got a little bit to share with you on the next slide here in just a minute. We do anticipate that by January we'll have another technical advisory committee meeting, because we will have all of that Green Infrastructure Plan data in hand and collect it all into one model. And then once we have that meeting, we will come back to you with recommendations from the committee for options for looking at goals. So this is not a finished product, but just wanted to show you a few graphics from the presentation we got from the consultants last week. So those darker areas are protected lands, and then it just kind of starts to show how you could make some connections through there, just kind of visually following paths of least resistance, I believe is what they called them, for lands that may not be protected, but kind of have a checkerboard pattern and would be easier to make those corridor connections. Next slide. And they're even going to get down so they'll get down, we'll be able to look at very specific, a spot out towards Kiowa, and then a spot in Mount Pleasant where you could really focus high priority on connecting these cores together through the corridors. Keep going, Chris. And then the purple shows the highest value cores. So the larger of acreage, typically the higher value they are, because it allows for better wildlife habitat, better flood storage, all of those good things. Keep going, Chris. Again, just a brief, wanted to show you a few graphics of what we're working on, then we'll give you a full report on this, most likely January or February. Any questions on the goals before I jump into the next?
So January is when we could actually start looking at that map closely?
I think I'll certainly be able to share all that with you, but January we'll intend to have a technical advisory committee meeting, which was represented by the land trust, the municipalities, especially their GIS folks, and then have that committee meeting to then be able to look at all the data that we've gathered, see what that looks like, and then come back to you all with some recommendations probably in February.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So you probably heard a little bit in the news that the county is officially now exploring a potential extension of the first half-penny sales tax. Back at their summer workshop, they had some consultants that they hired develop a historical report on the previous transportation sales tax program, so just accomplishments on everything that had been done. And then they delivered that to council back in September. In September, County Council formed a special transportation sales tax committee, which is a committee of the whole. All county council members participate in that committee to specifically focus on, should we have an extension of the sales tax? Should the question go out there? And if so, what should that look like? So just most recently, at their last county council meeting, they directed staff and consultants to officially start soliciting input on a first draft of potential investment categories and priorities. So that process has started. We're supposed to go out with the consultants. We're targeting municipalities, stakeholder groups, and the general public, and then report back to council on that feedback in mid-November or December. Go ahead, Chris. At that point in time, council is supposed to use the input to adjust potential investment categories, and I'll show you a pie chart about what investment categories means, and establish subcategory targets, and then direct staff to develop more specific project lists which is a little more applicable on the roads and mass transit side. As you all know, projects kind of come to us the way the Greenbelt program has operated traditionally. At that point in time, the final draft of the consultant and staff recommendation for the TST program will be presented for council's consideration in January. At that point, I expect there to be some deliberations on how that pie gets divvied up at that point, and then that they will start doing readings if the recommendation is to go forward with the referendum. That has to have 3 readings prior to mid-August. So I think there'll probably be some deliberations around February or so on county council to kind of finalize what the path forward is. We've launched a new website, charlestontransportation.com, where you can learn information about that report, as well as provide feedback on the whole program. So there's going to be a whole survey that should be going out very soon. So I encourage you to look at that. Next slide. These are the investment categories that former Transportation Secretary Hall, who was one of the consultants, presented to council. This was back at their September 25th committees meeting. This is available on the county's YouTube page, and she does an excellent job of going into much more detail than I provided today on what the process is up to this point and the process going forward. So I'd highly encourage you to watch that, and if you have other stakeholders that are reaching out to you asking about this, please direct them to that meeting as well. It gives an excellent timeline and summarizes some of the decisions that have to be made. The percentages you're seeing on this pie chart is the up to this point, this is what council has allocated through the first half penny and second half penny to these various programs. Or it is for Greenbelt, 13% for Greenbelt. As you'll recall, the first one was 17%, the second one was 10%. But they're breaking it out just a little bit differently this time, including financing costs as its own piece of the pie. That most likely would be for roadways and transit, potentially bike and pedestrian, and then splitting out bike and pedestrian. There's a very small percentage of bike and pedestrian that's set aside as part of the current roads program. So potentially looking at a significant expansion of that. Yes, sir.
What were the former Greenbelt percentages you mentioned?
17% for the first half penny and 10% for the second. And I believe the first one was 210 million and the second was closer to 200. So it rounding up, I believe, is or other way around. The rounding got us to 13. Yeah.
And then the financing costs for the roadway, bike ped, transit.
Most likely. I mean, if they would be available for Greenbelt as well, but given the balance we have right now, we've traditionally looked at it and said it's really not needed at this point. But just trying to plan for that, have its own accounting in that slice of the pie. So yeah, I think you'll start seeing here very soon. You'll start seeing some information, and what the consultants and staff are trying to do is not so much Schedule 6 meetings around various geographic parts of the county, but actually go, to municipal meetings where people are already gathering and present at those. Pull together some stakeholder meetings. The Trust for Public Land is one of our consultants as well, and they're working on a stakeholder meeting for our more environmentally focused groups and land trusts. So there'll be some invites going out for that soon.
That's good.
And again, please watch the video if you didn't see that meeting already. It's about a good 20 minutes or so of presentation by Secretary Hall and discussion by council, and I think that'll clear things up better than I can do secondhand in the short amount of time we have today.
Is that a finance committee meeting or is it a separate meeting?
So they formed the new transportation sales tax committee, so it was during that committee meeting. Yes, sir. Which was up first. So if you go to the YouTube page, September 25th, that's the first meeting on that video. All right.
Let's keep going, Chris, to the first, the next line item, Botany Bay expansion.
So we can actually strike that from the agenda. That's, after talking more with legal, it was determined that's not something that'll be needing GAB
But just,
recommendation.
if you were curious, remember OSI purchased that property, Open Space Institute, with the intent of transferring it to DNR. There was one small section across the road that's all marsh, and there's some state rules about the state of South Carolina has to own marsh when they own it instead of DNR. So DNR is a subunit of the state, so we're splitting it out and doing it in 2 deeds whenever they transfer it.
Okay, that sounds good. So on to the summer Greenbelt project applications.
All right. So for the FY '26 summer cycle, we received 10 applications. Those are all rural. And if all are approved, it would protect an additional 1,781 total acres. 5 of those projects are conservation easements, and the other 5 are fee simple. And of those 5 fee simple projects, 4 of those will be reimbursement requests. So here's a map just showing the regional layout of these projects. You have the 2 Low Country Land Trust conservation easements up at the county line there in McClellanville. And then you have another phase of the Betsy Carrison Nature Trail project on Johns Island, just outside the urban growth boundary. We have the town of Ravenel's project right here. And then the other 6 are through Edisto Island Open Land Trust, which consists of 2 conservation easements out towards Adams Run, and then this cluster of 4 projects off 174 on Edisto Island. So again, these projects are all rural. It would equal a total of $4.9 million if all are approved. We currently have just over $16 million available on hand. So if all are approved, would leave a balance of just over $11 million for the winter cycle, with a lifetime of just over $79 million there. Again, no urban projects, so that would still leave the balance of $7.2 million for the winter cycle as well. Any questions on the funding before we hop into the projects? All good? And I will point out before I get started on the projects, I was supposed to mention this, but in case anybody's wondering why Brooks is standing over there, he's got some lower back discomfort, so he'll be standing through the presentations, a little less discomfort than sitting down. So our first project for your consideration is the Montgomery Tract. This is a conservation easement through Low Country Land Trust. This property is located off Rutledge Road and Old Georgetown Road and has some frontage along the South Santee River. Right adjacent to the property to the left here is the Hampton Plantation Conservation Easement, which received Greenbelt funding, and tracts of the Francis Marion just to the south as well. The property is currently used for recreation and is managed predominantly for both forestry and timber investment, and will continue to be used with conservation easement. Some of the notable draft terms of the easement are no subdivision of the property, impervious surfaces shall not exceed 24,000 square feet in the aggregate, and limit of 1 residential structure and a 300-foot South Santee River buffer. Land Trust is requesting $453,000 for the purchase of the 312-acre conservation easement. They're also requesting $7,000 in admin closing costs. Their match, they're pledging 231%, which consists of $755,000 donation of easement value from the landowner, $302,000 from the State Conservation Bank, and $7,000 additional in admin and closing costs. The State Conservation Bank application was deferred to the next application cycle, which has a January 31st application deadline due to a lack of funding on hand currently. And the subcommittee did recommend approval of $460,000 in rural Greenbelt funds for the project, and we received no letters of support with the application. Any questions on this?
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
In my mind, this project sort of is really what voters were looking for when they voted for the sales tax many years or so ago. So my question is, why is it scoring only 61? It seems a very low score. It seems to check all of the boxes. I guess there's still the issue of whether the state bank is going to come up with the funds, but why isn't the score higher? Why is it so low?
Without looking directly through the application currently, I think conservation easements in general, without the public access, tend to lose points there in one category. Any other categories that stand out on the application to you all?
Well, one would certainly be partnerships. A lot of times conservation easements are just a deal between the landowner and the land trust. So I think they probably typically lose some points there. Do you have those ranges? Yeah. So, and just as a reminder, we always compare like projects. So where a conservation easement, they have these scales up there? So this one would rate in the fair category to score higher, more partnerships, letters of support, things like that. Historical value, I don't think there were many points for historical value on this one.
Any other questions? Yes.
Ask about the public access. Was there even any discussion at all about that for this property? And I asked that because I seem to recall that, like, one of the last few cycles ago, there was property also on the South Santee, but on the other side of Highway 17. So on that side, didn't we just approve something there too? And it was also no public access.
Another conservation easement, yeah.
Yeah, and so I just, I guess this is just more an opinion, but also a question with that is, personally, I think South Santee is probably one of the most beautiful landscapes that's out there. And I appreciate the fact that there's all this conservation, but to not have the opportunity for any sort of public access, and it seems to be kind of stacking up along the South Santee within close proximity of 17, therefore, not far for people to be able to try to get to it. Has there been any conversations at all? And maybe Low Country could answer that question too.
Hunter, you want
to? Hunter Allen with Low Country Land Trust. There have been initial conversations. We always try to get some kind of public access if possible, because we know the voters and citizens do want more of that. However, this one is leased to a group for hunting, so it's just not feasible. But we'll continue working to find more public access opportunities in the area.
I guess I'd just like to put that out there as just as a statement. I think I'm pretty sure there were two recently, and this is just it's a beautiful place, and it'd be great to have people to be able to enjoy it. So just comment more than anything.
Noted. Eric?
Just to comment on that too. One thing, we meet sometimes with Berkeley and Dorchester counties with their Greenbelt programs, and this is an issue that comes up. It's probably the number one issue that comes up with projects around all three counties. And I thought someone made a good point, is that for the cost, you're almost preserving the opportunity to one day provide public access there, because it would be perpetually protected. So something we could potentially work on down the line.
Any other questions or thoughts, or perhaps a motion? Yes.
Just a quick question, Eric, or Chris, or anyone on the staff. Do we know if in that area we have protected anything over the years? I can't think of it while I was on board that does have public access, and I wonder if taking a look at that and trying to understand, and I guess to your point, maybe having this be a focus area as part of your goals and targets is looking at public access along South Santee. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, just to answer that, and you'll kind of see more of it on the next slide or next project, but there is the Atlantic Greenbelt funded, which is a large portion of the Francis Marion Charleston Forest, just south of this, which you'll see a little bit better on the next slide. But
acquisitions for that are typical compared with trail park type lands.
Unrelated to this, there is a boat, right? The section in South Santee in there? Or is that the
I think it's on, there's one on the North Santee.
north? Okay, it's one up. Okay, gotcha. Oh, well. All right. Well, anyway, any more questions, thoughts, perhaps a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve, Mr. Jones, a second from Brooks. Thank you. Any discussion? Please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Okay, next.
And we have no public.
Okay.
Conservation easement land trust road and has about 1.5 miles of frontage along the 17 there. As I mentioned, just south, so the project we just looked at, the Montgomery tract, is just catty corner to this tract right up here, and the Atlantic Creosote Francis Marion tract that we had funded is just to the south down here. This property is also currently managed for forestry, wildlife habitat, and outdoor recreation. Some notable terms of the conservation easement include no subdivision of the property, impervious surfaces shall not exceed 123,000 square feet in the aggregate, limit of one primary residential structure, and a 300-foot setback for Rutledge Road and 17 North. They're requesting $915,000 towards the purchase of the conservation easement of 1,129 acres and an additional $7,500 in admin closing costs. They have a 269% match, which consists of over $1.8 million in landowner donation of value for the easement, $610,000 from the State Conservation Bank, which again, that application was deferred to the next application cycle in the winter. In addition, there was no letters of support submitted for this project, and the subcommittee did recommend approval of $922,500 in rural funds. Any questions?
Yeah, Andrew.
So for this one and the last one, you mentioned that the State Conservation Bank has deferred these applications to the next cycle. I guess just curious, and maybe if the applicant's here, if those are denied, what's the plan? Yeah, or maybe you know the answer.
I don't know if there's additional funding to cover that. On our end, if they were unable to close, those funds would just be put back into the Greenbelt allocation.
We're getting every indication that they will go through.
Good. Okay.
They like the project so far, so both should go
Okay.
through. They just didn't have funding, and the State House wouldn't release funds due to economic concerns for this cycle.
Okay. Thank you.
The next conservation bank cycle, does anybody know?
This one will go into the January 31st deadline. October, I don't think we're ready to take the application.
Okay, any other questions or thoughts on this one?
Perhaps a motion.
Move to approve.
Mr. Jones moves to approve.
Second.
Second from Andrew. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, next project for your consideration is the Palmetto Terrace Park by the town of Ravenel. The town is looking to purchase, or I think is purchasing any day now. It's closed. So the property just recently closed, 35.1 total acres. 23.9 of those acres shaded in green there will be part of the Greenbelt project. The other 11.2 acres will be part of an affordable housing project the town is looking to complete. The primary features of the public park portion here would be a passive nature observation areas and trails, pervious parking, picnic shelter for the public, and then a connecting boardwalk that would come through the wetlands here, connecting this affordable housing community to the community back here as well, making that public space accessible to multiple neighborhoods there. The town is requesting $225,600 for the reimbursement of the fee simple purchase for 23.9 acres, asking for an additional $1,000 in admin closing costs and $50,000 towards minor improvements. They have a 28% match, which consists of $56,400 from the town's funds, another $20,000 towards minor improvements from the town's funds, and $400 in admin closing. And the subcommittee did recommend approval of $276,600 in rural funds for this project. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Seems a very strange project. I'd be interested to hear what the subcommittee thought because it's a low score. My question is, what happens if the affordable housing doesn't materialize? Is the project still viable? I mean, let's face it, there's been a lot of talk about affordable housing, but nothing much has happened. So,
Well, as far as the Greenbelt portion of the project, that could still go through. The affordable housing portion is separate from this application, so I can't speak to that. But as far as the Greenbelt portion,
but if they cannot get the funds for affordable housing, we still have a project. What's going to happen? Is it still going to be used as a park or open area or what?
yeah, more than
Got Mayor Tumbleston with Ravenel here to answer. Mayor Tumbleston is here to answer questions for you.
Good
Mr.
morning.
Jones.
So the affordable housing portion, we applied to the Charleston Redevelopment Corporation for a $250,000 grant, which has been approved by the County Council Finance Committee, and we're actually working toward closing that. And then the town has $200,000 of funding as well. So the idea was to parlay three different funding sources: town funds, Greenbelt funds for the park and the protection of the wetlands, and then the affordable housing land to bank that. We will get that shovel ready and then find a partner that will go vertical with it. More than likely Habitat or someone along those lines that can provide excellent funding sources for the eventual owners of these homes. We're going to be able to fit somewhere between 20 and 23 homes on that 11 acres because there's water available, but there is no sewer. And I know we're getting into the weeds on a portion I was told not to talk about, but but it is the connectivity with the park from the neighborhood behind it, which is Palmetto Terrace, to the affordable housing neighborhood. I think it makes it a really interesting project.
Thank you. Does that answer the question?
Sort of.
Sort of. Yeah.
There's still access from behind this, regardless of what happens to that. There's still access to it.
correct.
Yeah, the very northernmost portion of the property are where the park uplands are located. So there's an intent to be a parking and passive park up on that end either way.
Right, yeah. Mr. Jones, I think I can help. So the affordable housing from what, during the subcommittee meeting, it was, it's not part of this project. It's kind of, I mean, it's in conjunction with, but not for the Greenbelt. And as Eric mentioned, the park, space is really going to be most accessible from the existing neighborhood that's there. So I think in terms of the way I thought about it, at least, was, okay, well, this will be a green space in a park for that existing neighborhood. If the affordable housing goes through, great, and they get a boardwalk connection, and now another, small little section will have access to it. But I think from the existing standpoint, that park area would serve a large existing neighborhood. That's the way I saw it.
All right, any other questions or thoughts on this project? Perhaps a motion. Thank you, Christiane. Do we have a second? Second. Who was that? Thank you very much, Adam. Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The motion carries.
Our next project is the Betsy Carrison Nature Trail Phase 5 by the Kiowa Island Natural Habitat Conservancy. And now you're all probably aware of the Betsy Carrison Nature Trail project. This is directly adjacent to phases 2 through 4 of the project. So you have phase 3 just to the north here, phase 4 right next to it, and then phase 2 above it. And this fifth phase of the project is intended to be primarily a buffer, a small section of trail, and would make a connection over to the Church of Our Savior just to the south there. Hopefully you all had an opportunity to use presentation during the subcommittee of the master plan of this project, a detailed in-depth presentation. I'm just going to briefly show you the master plan that they presented here. So again, this phase 5 that's currently being considered is this parcel down here with a section of nature trail there and connecting over to the church. The majority of the park infrastructure will be on phases 3 and 4 here. You would have the park entrance here coming into a previous parking area, and then additional parking down here by the sweetgrass basket stands. This building right here is the home that's currently existing on phase 4 that would experience, that would have some renovations done to it for intern housing for the Conservancy. And then this building here would be an informational center that they would build with a connecting boardwalk over to the Hummock Island. And just to point out back here, this phase 5 would complete the purchase of this Hummock Island out here, so the public would be able to access that. So the Conservancy is requesting $600,000 towards the purchase of the property of 10.7 acres. They're also requesting an additional $1 million in minor improvement funds, and I'll touch a little bit more on that in a minute. They're also requesting $14,150 in admin closing costs. Their match is 153%. That consists of $600,000 from the State Conservation Bank, $200,000 from the Conservancy's funds for minor improvements, and just over $1.6 million in Conservancy funds for planned improvements. Much like the and the funds, regardless, go ahead and close on this property. Those funds. So just wanted to touch on the minor improvements and some of their match. I put together this chart over here to the right, kind of showing some of the earlier phases of this project, primarily phases 2 and 3 there. Early stages of this project, they intended it to be kind of just a small nature trail project. And the match that they pledged was relatively low for this project. As they had the opportunity to acquire more projects, it's kind of expanded the scope of this project. Or, I'm sorry, acquire more properties, it's expanded the scope of this project. And that's kind of where you see the high ask for minor improvements that are you see the increase in improvements to be this project. We recommend approval condition of the $1,714,050 in run, special on a dollar-for-dollar basis with verified match fund pledges. What is that the Conservancy could show, let's say, 1,000 in pledge that staff verify and approve, that would make it eligible for improvement funds to be reimbursement, given that the work had been completed were supplied. There were letters of support for the project. We did put out a survey. Received
Is there another phase coming, or are we done?
I will defer to the Conservancy on that. My understanding, but I'll let them speak to that.
Yeah.
Conservancy, great question. This is the final phase for that initial nook in that conservation area, but we're looking up and down Betsy Harrison for more properties to acquire in the same vicinity, but for the Betsy Harrison nature area that you're all.
Tie those in with this.
There will be no direct, after there's private land on either side. You have the church and then private residential directly to the property.
So the entity is complete with.
Correct. Yeah, this is the final one.
Can I continue, sir?
Yes, but please speak into the microphone.
Okay. Minor improvements. Minor. This is a major improvement. A total of over $1 million compared to 2.5. And the question is, ADA. How important is the ADA in that boardwalk?
Yeah, great. You're absolutely right. They are improvements, but we are, for the Greenbelt application, they're considered improvements. We have plans for this project. And ADA accessibility is very important.
But it's $1 million just for the ADA accessibility?
No, I'm going to let Sean talk a little bit further, but that $1 million can fund for minor improvements. So that's trails, unpaved roads, boardwalks, bridges, parking.
If you took the ADA out of that particular $1 million, what would be the cost?
So specifically, the ADA requirements are not the substantial cost. It's the boardwalks in general, the trails in general, will allow for all access. So our goal is to have ADA compliant. So for example, crushed gravel can be considered ADA compliant if it's a certain grade and if it's a certain width. Now the boardwalk that's raised would be also ADA compliant. It's just really the width and the access. So the majority of the costs are not related specifically to ADA.
Well, that's essentially my question because, I mean, yes, I mean, I'm treading on sort of soft ground here and maybe entities that support ADA. I'm not sure that ADA is a program. Anyhow, I'm not going to. It seems that it's some expense anyhow. So what? But if in
specifically,
the question.
Okay, it is not ADA. So, okay. For example, $400,000 that would be built compliance. Some trails that are going to be pervious would not have ADA compliant as considered part. It's just a portion of this project.
Yes. Architecture, major components, 1.2 million. I mean, I guess it's not Greenbelt advisory. It says architecture. Or is it really comprising also the building as well?
0.2 million was for the building itself, including some of the design costs. And these budgets, the budgets that we have were actually from 2024 when we did our first initial master planning phase. The total cost of the project is actually like $6.1 million now.
Sorry, it's what, 6.1?
$6.1 million is the most recent update. So these numbers are really an underestimate of the actual project. And so based on all of the community feedback that we've gotten, the master planning process, we have actually bumped up the scope of the project significantly for public access, parking, trails, the learning center, all of those. So we think it's a much...
it's not an issue. It's just, this is architecture. When I say architecture, I think of planning. In effect, the amount that you've got here is development.
For the architecture center.
Okay. This is quite a project.
It is. We think it's going to be a fantastic project for the island community and visitors of the area. It's comparable to what Land Trust is doing with the Angel Preserve. So you'll have two substantial preserves with public access in close proximity.
Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts on this? And everybody understands the special conditions element. Adam?
Just a quick comment. I think that this is exactly the type of project that the public was voting for when they voted for the half-cent sales tax in 2016. Thank you.
Agreed. Okay, so any other questions or perhaps a motion? We have a motion for approval.
Second.
And a second from Andrew. Any discussion? I have a question, just that special condition thing automatically is blended into that motion, correct? Because it's already been established, right? Okay. Then all in favor? Great. Motion carries.
Okay, the next 6 presentations will be the Edisto Island Open Land Trust. The first one here is the Edisto Island Museum Conservation Easement. This property is located off Highway 4 and Chisholm Plantation Road. Conservation easement, but it does currently have public access. The museum has stated that all funds received easement would be dedicated to their nonprofit mission. Public property. Some of the are no uses and no special uses except for those. The land trust is requesting $70,000 purchase of the conservation easement on 9.6 acres, costing an additional cost 138%, which consists of a $40,000 conservation bank application approved, 75 and $2,000 towards admin closing costs. They received 14 letters of support for this project and held a public meeting in which 30 to 35 residents attended to ask some questions on the projects in the area. And the subcommittee did recommend approval of $85,000 in rural funds for the project. Questions?
Mr. Jones.
Sorry, maybe I haven't had my coffee, but anyhow, I don't understand why this project scores so high. Looking at it simply, they're creating an easement over the property they own and which they'll continue to use. In effect, the funds are going to be used to expand their operation. I mean, it's a funding source for expanding their existing operation. I mean, the nature of the land, I'm not sure it lends itself to much development. It's a very long, narrow strip. I'm not sure that any developer would be particularly interested in acquiring this or redeveloping it. I don't know. I'd be interested how the subcommittee came up with such a large figure. And the Greenbelt cost per acre, 7.2, I think that's relatively high compared to, 19,000 acre. It's relatively high compared to all the other conservation easements that we've had. In fact, a multiple of 2 or 3 times.
I think Eric can answer the first part of that.
Yeah, just the first question about it scoring higher. This is a clear example of when there is public access. You know, you get more points there because this is an existing public green space, and it's my understanding that the funds, or at least a portion of those, will be put back into expanding and improving that public green space. And then they also had letters of support and that public meeting, so and a few more partnerships than the first conservation easement. So just to compare and contrast, that's why it scored higher.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Jones, on the nature of the parcel and its developability due to its size. So if you're familiar with Maybank Highway on Johns Island, most of the properties along that are of similar nature, 100 to 200 feet wide, and then go back really long like that. And just, as far as development patterns go, you can see what has happened along Maybank Highway and Johns Island. So just wanted to throw that out. The size and the shape of the parcel, I don't think would deter anybody from development. I can't speak to highland, lowland, and the rest of the site's features, but just basic size.
Any other questions, thoughts? Or perhaps a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Okay, the next project is Small Springs Scenic Buffer by Edisto Island Open Land Trust. This property is just one parcel over from the museum that was right here. This is also obviously located off Highway 174, and this is, like the title suggests, is intended to just be a scenic buffer along the National Scenic Byway. There is the potential for future access to this parcel. There's the parcel in between that would need to be purchased, or at least a portion of it, to make that connection from the museum. So right now it's just intended to be a scenic buffer with the potential down the road in the future to make a possible connection there. The Land Trust is requesting $55,000 in Greenbelt funds for reimbursement of the fee simple acquisition of the 1.5 acres. They have a 51% match, which consists of $25,000 from the Land Trust funds, as well as $3,250 in admin closing costs. They had 5 letters of support for this project. Again, they held a public meeting for any feedback or questions on these projects. And the subcommittee did recommend approval of $55,000 in rural funds. Questions?
Any questions? Mr. Jones, what's it going to be?
I was waiting for somebody else. Okay, again. The scenic highway, I assume that the federal authorities have declared it a scenic highway. Does that come with any benefits by being called a scenic highway?
Tom, you want to answer? Got Tom Austin from the Land Trust here.
Director of Land Conservation for the Edisto Island Open Land Trust. The federal designation of a National Scenic Byway, apart from restricting no billboards along the highway, really does not come with any other benefits apart from the cool name.
So following up on that, the planned acquisitions of both this and there's another one here, Cedar Hall, very similar. They're acquisitions along the highway. They're small acquisitions. I guess I'd be interested to know what the trust plans in future. I mean, how long is this highway? How much of it would you like to put under sort of conservation? How much would you like to own? I mean, could you give us an idea? I mean, it could be immeasurable and beyond us, but nevertheless, I'd like to know what your plans are. This could be the first, or maybe there are others, but many more that are going to be down the pipeline, you hope.
Right. So the Scenic Byway is a project and a designation that we helped orchestrate and got in place in 2009. The hope there is that it will preserve the rural and aesthetic character of the highway, which stretches from the base of the Dahu Bridge down to the causeway going on to Edisto Beach. It runs the whole length of Edisto Island.
How many miles, excuse me? How many miles is that?
I believe that's, putting me on the spot, about 12, I think. We currently own, I think, about a dozen properties along the Scenic Byway, which we have acquired since, I think the first one was in 1998. We have been purchasing small lots that have either a high aesthetic value through grand live oaks and the such, or some other cultural value along the highway for going on 25 years now. The designation of the Scenic Byway is just an extension of that effort. We have, I think, probably a third of our conservation easements also front the Edisto Island National Scenic Byway. It's our goal to protect most all of the rural landscape that still exists along the highway, particularly working lands and wetlands. It's part of our strategic planning. It's our hope to not have to buy every single lot along the highway, but that's just been the case the last 5 or so years. Most of those small iconic properties like this that are part of a historic live oak corridor, where the original circa 1800 highways passed through an alley of live oaks before they built the paved highway. This and the Cedar Hall property are both parts of iconic live oak tunnels that we're acquiring to, preserve that aesthetic character for the public's benefit.
So roughly of the 12 miles of the highway, how much would you either own or have under easement?
Currently, I don't have an exact number on that, but I would reckon it's around 20%.
Okay, so there's a way to go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this, where are you on the, it says that you want to link these two together. Where are you on that middle property? Is that just something you're hoping for, or is there anything being done on that?
Both ourselves and the museum have reached out to that landowner. She's currently not interested in selling, but similar to the museum property, there is a natural wetland that runs through the middle of those two parcels. So I'm not throwing out hope yet. The north end of that property is not necessarily readily developable. So I think it's highly possible that she may be interested in selling that northern lower end and allowing us to connect that between the museum. It's not something that currently we have a direct line to or that I can guarantee we can do, but it's something we are moving towards and we're hoping for.
And the intent if you did get that, the intent would to make all of this under the being run by the museum.
Yes.
Or would it be completely separate? Okay.
We'd have to work out the details, but I would hope to be able to potentially fold these into this easement with the museum and then transfer that ownership, management, stewardship over to the museum to make it all one green space.
Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts? Perhaps a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Alvin. We have one motion for approval.
Second.
Second from Andrew. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The motion carries.
Okay, the next project for your consideration is the Maxey Farm Nature Preserve. Again, Edisto Island Open Land Trust is the applicant. This property is located off Highway 74, and this is just down the road from the museum and the Small Springs projects, which are right here. This project is intended to have part public access and part agricultural fields. Roughly 70% of the acreage will be available for the public through walking trails, environmental education, and perhaps a small gathering space and some parking as well. And then the other 30% would be for agricultural use, where the land trust would lease to a local or beginning farmer for sustainable crop production and an emphasis on conservation-aligned agricultural efforts there. The landowner is also making a simultaneous bargain sale of a conservation easement funded by the State Conservation Bank on this parcel right up here as well. Not part of this project, but just wanted to notate that. The land trust is requesting $939,550 in Greenbelt funds as reimbursement for this acquisition. This was recently closed on September 29th. So it's 51.7 acres, and they're also requesting $55,000 in minor improvement funds for the project. Their match is $755,450, which consists of $400,000 from the State Conservation Bank, and that has been awarded already. $260,450 in donation of value, an additional $25,000 grant, and $70,000 out of the Land Trust organizational funds. They received 7 letters of support for this project. They held a public meeting to answer any questions on the project, and the subcommittee recommended approval of $994,550 in rural funds. Any questions?
Questions?
Just a quick statement, I think, to echo Adams. I think this is a really cool project, and I think this is also what our, what we voted for when we approved that sales tax to preserve land, provide educational, agricultural opportunities, and preserve the heritage of the rural agricultural sea islands. So, just wanted to state that.
I agree with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Noted. Any other questions, thoughts, or perhaps a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
All right, the next project is Cedar Hall Scenic Buffer. This is, again, located on Highway 174, just down the road from Maxey Farm. This is intended just to be a scenic buffer parcel again along the historic scenic byway. This is directly across from the Greenbelt funded Keefe Kinlaw scenic buffer parcel right here, as well as the Kinlaw, Keefe and Kinlaw conservation easements, these properties right down here as well. And this, this parcel will kind of complete a live oak tunnel right here that the Land Trust is working to protect there.
Questions?
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry. Go over the financing here real quick.
Okay,
65,000 requests from the Land Trust for the 3.1 acres, the fee simple reimbursement project. Their match is 51%, which consists of 30,000 in donation of value, just over 3,000.
Please say aye.
The conservation easement would also allow 635,000 donation. 635,000 donation of land value.
Out of the 6 acres,
tracks and built in work. Tom, feel free to correct me if I'm not.
To be subdivided parcels.
Possible housing could be something.
100 to 120.
What is it?
100 to 120.
Yeah. So just.
yeah. I was trying to clarify, was it going to be 11 1-acre lots, maybe all clumped together, but it sounds like it's going to be whatever 136 divided by 11 is, like 10-acre lots over the whole thing. I just was looking for clarification.
Tom can
on
add a
that.
little bit to that, clarify.
So I also want to clarify that I'm still negotiating with the landowner on that. The 11 is the maximum. As we're going through and we're getting wetlands delineated and we're really finding out what the property actually looks like, there is a certain financial target they're working for. It's just the tax deduction that they're able to actually utilize. And what we just found out was that the property actually has closer to 50 acres of wetlands on it. We were thinking it had approximately 25. So likely the total value of the property is going to decrease, but the same level of conservation donation is being sought by the landowner. So likely we will see a few of those subdivisions drop off of the easement terms. Currently, the way that I have the subdivisions set up, which I'm getting verified by a surveyor, is that about half the property will be one 50-acre tract that will have 1 acre within it that can be used for residential use, and then there will be roughly 10 other 10-acre lots that will each have 1 acre of residential use, and the remainder is all for forestry or recreation. So in essence, 11 acres are being reserved for residential use, but it may end up being at most 11 individual lots out of that.
Any other questions, Brian?
I've got a question about the limited agricultural use. Is that within the 1 acre box per each, or is that, how much of the land can they use for agricultural uses?
Right now, it's outside of the wetlands, outside of the wetland buffers, and outside of the roadside setbacks. I think that ultimately works out to being roughly about half the property could be used for agriculture, but the vast majority of the property is not really suitable for agriculture from a soil standpoint. So really, it's about 30 acres that are, state important or state or federal prime farmland that could be utilized for agriculture.
What does that do to the diversity that the guy was talking about? That he said it was the super most diverse thing he'd seen in years. What would chopping half of it into agricultural do to that?
Well, would not be good. That is a right that the landowner reserved. However, the vast majority of that is being conserved through those wetlands and the wetland buffers.
Any other questions? Yep.
How wide are the wetland buffers being proposed?
I believe they are currently 50 foot.
50, that's good.
And then additionally, the wetlands themselves total about 50 acres. So,
all in one pocket?
No, they're spread throughout the property.
Okay. Yeah. Adam?
Kind of feel like this project, personally don't feel like this project's ready until I understand what that final subdivision would look like. And so I just want to let you guys know I won't be supporting it.
Yes,
I
Mr.
support
Jones.
My friend here. I agree with him.
We're friends.
Okay. Perhaps you'd like to make a motion?
Me? You want to make a motion?
Or anyway,
Well,
any
if-
further questions,
If it's going to be approved,
thoughts?
I mean, I'm just not going to support it. So I'm not going to. I'll make a motion to defer or deny until such time as we understand what the long-term plan is on this project, because it sounds like there's too many question marks right now. That's my motion.
Point of order, was it to defer or deny? Because those are two separate options.
My preference would be to defer, but then he told me how to deny. So my preference would be to defer until we have a better idea of what the long-term land use plan is for that property.
Is that a motion?
That would be my motion, yes.
Okay.
But you guys can deny my motion.
Can I second and then to discuss?
You can. And then we have a second here, and then we're going to discuss. So, Mr. Jones, do you want to?
No, I second if somebody else hasn't.
Okay.
Okay, it is now seconded. So, to discuss. Yes.
I'd be curious, based on what you said, if the applicant has an idea of when those when that plan might be ready. Right, so we're saying we want to defer till we see more information. Tom, do you have an idea of when those conversations could be wrapped up?
Well, my plan was after this meeting to report back to the landowner and discuss next steps, because I currently do not know where the surveyor is at with, figuring out that survey. And additionally, the appraiser still needs to make an update based off of that new wetland value. With this being the end of the year and just how crazy everything gets with due diligence contractors right now, I can't give a hard number, but I would say I would probably know sometime in November exactly what the final shape is going to look like.
Is there any chance a deferral puts the property at risk for a sale for full development?
No, I do not believe so.
Okay.
The landowner does want to close this year, but they do not tend to develop the property.
And when would be our next GAB meeting? Do we have that?
We typically reserve the second Wednesday of each month for meetings if needed, so.
It's just not scheduled.
Correct.
Okay, any other discussion on this?
So to be clear, you could call a meeting in December to consider this if it's.
Or when he's ready.
When he's ready, yes, anytime.
I'd like to see specifically what could be turned into agriculture and what couldn't be. If you could come up with some kind of graphic for that, or at least what's wetlands, what specifically will remain as it is. That would be something very helpful.
So that's not part of the motion, obviously. That's just a request. Is that cool?
That works for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to have the surveyor drawing stuff up on the site plan anyway. I can have them designate agricultural areas.
Okay. So then I guess just my follow-up to this is like if we defer and we were able to meet in December with some of all these questions answered, that all works for you?
It would work for me. I do not know if it will work for the landowner.
Okay.
So.
And just a reminder, after you guys do make a recommendation one way or the other, that still has to go through council. So we'd have to get on their agenda as well. So I guess if we're going to defer, the sooner the better.
Yeah, so could it be November?
To clarify for everyone, if the GAB is looking at in the motion to defer, which is on the table, If that is approved, the deferral would have to go back to the subcommittee, and then the subcommittee would review it again and then bring it back to you guys. And then to Eric's point, at that time, you guys would make another motion, and then that motion would go to county council. So the motion to defer entails certain timelines that are beyond everyone's control at this time.
Okay, then I would also like to just, as part of our discussion, to just say that I will not support the motion because I totally trust Tom's intent on this property, and I think we should protect it now. But that's my own perspective. So, and I would like to see it approved, but that's just my thoughts. So any other questions for discussion or thought? Yes, Adam.
I absolutely agree that the project has merit. Just to be clear, I just don't think that I understand what the vision is for the property. Is it 11 10-acre tracts? Is it 11 1-acre tracts? How are they dispersed on the property? What are we actually preserving? What are we conserving? None of that is presented to us in this capacity. And so until I understand that better, that's why I made the motion. But I think that the conservation of that tract and the importance of that it has a lot of merit. So,
Go ahead, Eric.
Mr. Bell, is there any reason we couldn't do the subcommittee meeting immediately before the GAB meeting all in one day?
And there is not, and that's at the discretion of the chair of both those committees. Just procedurally, there has to be a subcommittee meeting before a full GAB meeting.
Okay. No problem. So we could knock it out quickly. That helps. Tom, one more question for you. How quickly could you get these answers, you think?
That is entirely dependent on the surveyor's timeline. I have site plans that I have drawn up in GIS. I can mail Eric this afternoon or email Eric this afternoon. But getting some actual meets and bounds on a survey and having that, reviewed by someone who knows whether or not these are feasible subdivisions, as well as getting the appraisal update, that is out of my hands. As I said, probably mid-November is the best I can guarantee.
Okay, that sounds good. I think I might change my position to vote in favor of the motion. But anyway, any other discussion or thoughts, Mr. Jones?
Well, I guess we really are not bound, to a meeting on a Wednesday in the middle of the month. I mean, do we have some flexibility? I mean, if we think this is an important project, then certainly I would be able to, or would be prepared to come to an ad hoc meeting just to approve it.
Yeah, we'll get it done. We'll definitely. I believe that we can get it done. So that part doesn't worry me. Any other questions, thoughts, or discussion?
I think it is important that Adam, made that comment because we do want our standards to be high. So I do agree with, having a fully thought out plan for something like this, which is a little bit more intricate than some of the other easements and purchases we were talking about. So I think I just wanted to state that I think this level of scrutiny, keeps the standards high and keeps the legitimacy of what we're doing.
Any other thoughts or discussion? Okay, we'll now vote on the motion to defer to the earliest possible GAB meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So, Preacher's Pond.
Preacher's Conservation easement. Property is located off Preacher easement, which is Greenbelt directly south of that here. Some of the notable terms for subdivision, industrial or commercial uses, except for agricultural, timbering, and home businesses. This would have one primary residence only and one secondary guest house, and ancillary structures are allowed within one 5-acre building envelope. The Land Trust has requested $125,000 in Greenbelt funds towards the purchase of the conservation easement, which is 103.1 acres. They're also requesting $20,000 admin closing costs. Their match is 155%, which consists of $225,000 in the donation of easement value from the landowner. The appraisal was recently completed for this property on September 11th, just after the subcommittee meeting. And the appraisal came in $15,000 more than what was estimated. So it increased their match up to 155% from 145%. They did receive 2 letters in support, and the subcommittee recommended approval of $145,000 in rural funds. Questions on this one?
Any questions? Perhaps a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, that concludes our project applications, and I don't believe there were any public comments. Yes, Eric?
No public comments, but before we adjourn, I believe everyone has registered for the mandatory board training meeting, except for our municipal reps are not required to do that. Everyone else is, as well as execute the oath of office. Those dates are on there. If you have any questions, just let us know. And we will also email out to you before the week's out some of the stuff we referenced today, especially about the transportation sales tax, the link to the website, and the link to that meeting, that committee meeting where that was discussed in great detail.
Okay, that's good. Consideration for subcommittee recommendations. What is that? What is that?
Oh, I think that's just got out of order in your version of the agenda.
Okay.
So that's the last item.
Okay. Next meeting, I think we should lock in or at least put that date in November so everybody saves the date. What would that date be? The second Wednesday in November? Is that right?
I don't know. From what I heard from Tom, I don't know that.
Why don't we say the 19th?
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we shoot for immediately after Thanksgiving, or what do you think, Tom?
The 12th would be the second Wednesday, the 19th would be.
But maybe we should give them another week.
I'm available December 3rd currently. Confident I can get something back by then.
By the 12th?
You said December 3rd.
Oh, December 3rd, excuse me. I didn't hear that. Okay, December 3rd.
When's the county council meeting that they would be addressing all the rest of this?
That would, if everything were worked out on December 3rd, that would give us time to get it through council on the 18th. That's going to put it pretty tight for actual closing. Otherwise, council would be December 4th.
Why don't we back it up to November 19th? Do you think that would work? Tom?
Potentially.
I do apologize, but every one of my Wednesdays I have a hard conflict
Yeah.
until December. Apart from the morning of the 12th, I do have to cancel a monitoring visit, but I think I can make that. I'm just not certain I will have the information by then.
Why don't we save the date, just so that if you do, we're ready. And then you just let us know.
Okay.
Is that fair, Eric? Or is that good with you
What's
guys?
that date again?
November 12th.
Yep. We'll pencil that in and adjust as we need to.
Okay.
Whether that's a Wednesday or not, if we can get a quorum.
Is that a Wednesday?
That is a Wednesday.
Right, but I'm saying we may need to adjust to a day that's not a Wednesday.
Oh.
Yeah, but we'll hold this for now.
If he's not ready.
If he's not ready by then.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay. All right. What other items of business? Does anybody else have anything? Okay, fantastic. Then we're adjourned. Thank you.
We need to get on Monday, huh?
You want to get